Oscar Wilde once said, "The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about." That might work for a lot of things, or maybe it used to work for a lot of things, but in today's world, it doesn't seem to hold up. Just take Avowed. Up until the end of November of 2024, Avowed was receiving pretty good press. Maybe the world wasn't falling all over themselves to get a hold of it, but they weren't calling it a piece of garbage. And the feedback that was being given about the weightiness of the combat and other things seemed to be being addressed by the studio in ways that seemed to be suiting those prospective customers. Then Matt Hansen opened his mouth, and all of that changed. Yet again, going against one of those often quoted phrases, this time P.T. Barnum's, "There's no such thing as bad press." Well, in today's environment, bad press means really bad things. And there are just sometimes you don't want to be the one they're talking about. Now, Microsoft is certainly saying that Avowed is doing well. The Steam numbers don't show gangbusters sales, but it is available on Microsoft Game Pass, and that's going to skew those numbers considerably. What we do know, however, is that an awful lot of people are taking issue with this game. They may have a point, or they may not. The thing is, they probably wouldn't be taking such an issue with this game if Hansen had kept his mouth shut. Now, everyone's entitled to flap their gums however they want and spew whatever they want to say, but it doesn't always do well for the products you're selling, nor the people who are also working on those products. And we may never know what impact Hansen had on game sales. I, for one, paused before considering picking this game up on Game Pass, even though it is on Game Pass, because you just don't want to support something that's a woke piece of garbage. And if anyone's ever been in business, run their own business, or just done anything significant in their life, they know that biting your tongue is something you're going to do more often than you might want. Do you tell that customer who wants a refund for no good reason to take a long walk off a short pier? Do you really want to say, "Hey, you're too stupid to use the product, so go away"? And do you want to express an opinion that absolutely everybody is going to take issue with, one way or another? Because when you make a product, you're responsible for it, and you're also responsible for the folks who are working with you to make that product. Every time you open your mouth and say something, good or bad, you represent your company and your product. So hurting sales is never a good idea, no matter how much virtue signaling you want to do. Because in the end, it's about selling a product and being able to make more. But when you're desperate to join the national fray on what you think of this politician or this individual, you're just begging to lose sales. I believe I've said it before in some video quite a while ago, but Michael Jordan was famous for saying, "Republicans and Democrats buy sneakers." So he didn't take a stand while he was playing basketball, because he wanted Republicans and Democrats to buy his sneakers. But that kind of thinking has gone by the wayside. If you're not making a political point, well, you're just not doing it right. I, for one, just don't want to know anything about your politics. Please, write a great game, make a game that plays well, and I'll buy it. If I find out you're a scumbag later, well, that's beside the point. Just don't front load that expectation if you expect to get my dollars. Write the best story, make the best game, and people will buy it. If you have to put some political bent to it, be so freaking good at your job that we don't see it, and you just weave it in there so that it's so subtle that you can forego using a 2x4 upside our heads with your blessed ideology, whatever it is. Now for me, as far as Avowed goes, it's okay. As our last First Impressions video said, it's there. It's a decent game. But it's certainly not worth $90-some, and it's not really worth $70. And for my money, most of what causes Avowed problems is not any ideology. It's the fact that the game went through several iterations. Namely, it was going to be an online co-op game. Ick. But the fact that it went through all these iterations has left the game a bit hobbled. It doesn't ever seem to be a good idea to take one idea and then shift the game while keeping significant portions of it that were part of the bad idea. They just never mesh. And if you're going to give someone a reason to not like your game, especially social and political reasons, well, any other shortcomings are just going to get amplified. So we're back to Obsidian producing a perfectly serviceable game. Combat's fun enough, exploration lets you find things that actually are useful to you, and wow, there's a lot of things to find. The graphics are perfectly fine, not the most important thing to me, but still kind of nice for it not to be ugly. You have your third-person perspective, and there are a lot of dialogue choices. and a lot of opportunities to make those choices. You're not just listening to a couple of characters explain everything to themselves, and you get to occasionally say, oh yes, let's go do that. Yes, a lot of the dialogue might just be for flavor, but I don't mind that either. I like being able to put some flavor to my character. And there are a lot of skill checks based on your background and the attribute points you've spent. Is the writing smoking hot awesome? No, it's so-so. And while it's not much saying that it does better than most, not like that dreck coming out of Veilguard, it's nothing to write home about, and who knows whether I'll actually finish this game or not. But at least having Kai in my party makes things interesting. Brandon Keener always seems to bring it. So in the end, am I enjoying Avowed? Yes, a game doesn't have to be the greatest thing ever made for it to be a decent game and for people to want to play it. For every Dragon Age Origins, there are 100 Avowed. It's just too bad that some virtue signaling and ill-advised mouthing off have cast such a dark cloud over this game, because we need more story-based games. Story-based with choice, so that I can direct where my character goes and ultimately where the story goes, at least as far as any scripted CRPG can let me direct the outcomes. And every time a game like this takes a big hit and doesn't do blockbuster sales, it's just one more nail in the coffin to those types of games. And if every game has to be the greatest thing that ever sold, well, we're not going to get too many games in the end. And I don't really care whether this is considered AA or AAA. Heck, it's hard to tell the difference anymore. And if we're just talking actual overall budget, well, I really don't know what that couple of $100 million got Veilguard. And Avowed is certainly not Greedfall. So I think it sticks up at least at the top tier of those AAs at the very least. But that's just my 2 cents. What do you folks think? Leave us a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.